Hey, and welcome back to my craft room. This is video 2 in my July 2021 product class featuring the colour and contour stamp set and matching dies from Stampin' Up. Thanks again for purchasing this class, or if you're watching later on YouTube or Facebook and you'd like to participate in classes, please reach out to me with whatever contact details are available on the platform you're watching. I think YouTube has my email address, and Facebook has my mobile, etc. Or just message me. Excuse me, I've got a bit of a croaky throat after having my lunch. So anyway, all good. So this is card number 2. Cute little card, lovely in the pinks and purples, but a little bit unusual in the fold in the fact that it is what they call I've seen called a book binding card, which means it has this sort of sealed little spine here, which is a feature on its own, and it's actually sealed there. And you have this smaller panel that actually opens and closes. So this little panel here, I've decorated it with some lovely polka dot ribbon, and I've sealed it so that it forms this little spine, I suppose you could call it, of your book card. Okay, again, we're using the stamp set. We're using a different stamp this time. We've got a cute little pearl there, lovely little accent there, and some of the wonderful hand-penned designer series paper, which is my absolute favourite at the moment. The colours are Highland Heather and Blushing Bride, and the ink is in Highland Heather. So, okay, so let's get started. This is what your kit will look like, roughly. You have your card base, which, as I said, is in Highland Heather. It's a normal sort of landscape card, I suppose you'd call it. That's 11 inches long by 4 inches wide. It's scored at 5.5 and at 4, and that 1.5 little gap there is where we seal it down to produce our little spine there. Got a 4 by or 3 7/8 panel of Whisper White that's going to sit there. And actually looking at it, I've made it too big. It's going to have to be trimmed down. I don't know what measurements I was thinking of in myself. Apologies if yours is a little big. It might just need to be trimmed down a little bit. I get so used to working with a 4 1/8 width card that sometimes I forget, and I've made that a little bit long. And you have a piece of Blushing Bride, which is hopefully the right size to fit on the front. Some of the lovely designer series paper to sit on that. And then for our spine, we've got a more narrow piece of Blushing Bride and a narrow piece of the designer series paper. And just for a bit of highlight, we're going to flip that to the other side so the pink is showing up. Then you've got for your sentiment and your stamping, you've got another little square panel of Blushing Bride and a slightly smaller panel of Basic White. This is for stamping our sentiment. You should also have some ribbon, and I ran out of the polka dot ribbon, which is also retired as I was doing my kits. So for this one, my own for this video tutorial purposes, I've replaced it with the Gorgeous Grape, which actually is really, really nice. So I'm not too upset by that at all. So I'll show you how to incorporate that ribbon into your design, into the design shortly. Okay, so we'll pop all that aside for the moment, and I'll bring in the spare cardstock that I've given you for stamping. And I'll also show you how to deal with the plain die cut, if that's what you've received in your set. If you didn't buy the dies, I've provided you with the plain die cuts, which you need to stamp and colour yourself separately. But it's not too difficult. I think, as you probably saw if you watched the first video first, it can, a bit of practice and it can be quite simple. Okay, so let's start with the die cutting. If you have the dies on your scrap piece of Basic White, you just need to stamp the image in black ink. And then there is where are we? I didn't get it out. there's a infill stamp here, so you don't have to use blends or anything unless you absolutely want to, or markers or pencils or whatever you like. So this one actually does the colouring in for you, like that. And we're going to bring in our Highland Heather. And just putting this in the right orientation, you can colour in your images with this one. There we are. So like with the little daisies that we talked about in card 1, it doesn't fill in 100%. It sort of leaves a little bit of artistic white space, which is totally fine. But now I'll pop that with the dies. If you've got the dies, pop it through your die cutting machine, and you basically will get the image that you want on the front of your card. What I'm going to do though is I'll use the one here from the die cut, the plain die cut. And again, as we did with the daisies, which I've still got the image there, probably best, and not that you've got to worry too much about orientation with this one, just give yourself a little bit of a practice with the stamp on a blank piece of paper. Then you can see, where roughly things are going to go. You've got the little bud at the top, which obviously goes into that little part there, and the stem down the bottom. Okay, so this one might be a little bit, I don't know, easier, harder, but you do need to make sure you match that stem with the stamp, because otherwise it's going to look a bit weird. So what I do, as I did with the first video, is stamp up or ink up my stamp, then line it up with the die cut. In this case, sort of position the stem underneath the die cut and the little bud at the top, and just give it a gentle firm down. That's not too hard at all. I think this way, or for me personally, this way coming in from the top is easier than trying to position it coming in from there. I would probably find difficult. Not too bad, but yeah, I find it easier to stamp that first and then bring the die cut in over the top. But anyway, that sort of worked out pretty well. I think again with this one, I've given you some spares. If you want to have a bit of a practice before you do the real thing, do so, just to make sure you're not going to be disappointed with the results. Okay, so again, I've got my Highland Heather and the colour infill. Try and position it as best I can over the die, over the image, and colour it in. Okay, so there you are. You could also as well grab some green, I don't know, some what colour, some pear pizzazz or a matching green from the paper, and you could colour in those leaves, but I'm not going to bother with that for this particular one. Okay, so we've got our little die cut there, which we're going to bring into when we finish our card. So let's actually just start it going. Okay, so we've got I'm going to put the layers on the front first. So I've got my Blushing Bride, which is going to go on the square on the right hand side of this score line, just like that. So the same gap, top, bottom, right, and here to the left, the same score between the score line and the panel. And then we'll bring in the Designer Series paper. Now this Designer Series paper has a very distinct, a distinct up and down. So make sure you line it up with so it's heading from up and down the right direction. Okay, cool. Okay, at the same time, we're going to bring in the little skinny panel of Blushing Bride, which is going to go on the left-hand side of our score line. Just like that. So try and line them up so that the two panels, the Blushing Bride panels, are the same distance, same sort of gap, top and bottom, as your other one, just so it looks uniform. Just like that. And then this time, as I say, I'm going to keep the pink side facing up, so as much as hurts my sensibilities to put glue on those flowers, I'm going to put that down. There we go. It just sort of just makes a distinction between the two front-facing panels of our card. Okay, so now what we're going to do is bring in our ribbon and basically open up your card and concentrate on this central bit here. So the ribbon is going to go around the back. So your polka dot ribbon would probably be doing the same sort of thing, bringing it around to the front and then tying either a knot or a bow, depending on how much ribbon you've actually got and how nimble your fingers are. I tend to go to knots if I'm sort of a bit challenged for the length of my ribbon, but I think I've given myself enough of this grape to tie a bow. So see how you go. A knot or a knot is just as nice. I did that on a fun fold card that I did recently with a knot, and it was just as nice. And it was a lot easier too, because as you guys know, I am a little bit bow challenged from time to time. There we go. Got that one. Okay, so there's our bow. Not the best bow in the world, but that's okay. And I might just trim it off a little bit. Grab some scissors. There we are. So that's our little bow there. So what we need to do now is open our card up again, and we're going to seal down this little quarter, this little part here. So the best thing to do that with, you can use glue or you can use snail. It's entirely up to you, but I think the best thing to use in this case is double-sided tape. But whatever you have on hand, we just want to trap that ribbon in place in our little sealed spine. Okay, there. If you watched the first video that I made earlier today, I was saying we were going to go to an open home or a couple of open homes with my son to have a look at some houses that they're hoping to buy a house. Both open homes were really good, actually. They're thinking of putting an offer in on the second one we saw, although they liked both. But the first one they liked so much, but I think there was like about 100 million people at the open home and all of them talking about putting in offers. So I think the guys realised that probably it wasn't worth getting their hopes up for that one. But the second one was really nice and a lot more modern than the first one. So they're thinking of it. It's just sort of trying to weigh up their options at the moment and not get too carried away. Not like their mum, who tends to get carried away. Like me, I'd be buying the first house I saw. In fact, I think I did 22 years ago. I've been here ever since. Okay, so there's our little ribbon on the side there, which is quite pretty. Now, if you find that this is a little bit loose or something now, once you've got it sealed down, you can probably tie it again, and it probably would be a lot more secure to actually tying it the second time after it's all sealed down, but I'm quite happy with that little bow. You know, the devil you know, stick to the bow you know. Okay, so we've got to do the rest of it, and this one's really easy from here. We're just going to bring in our little square of Blushing Bride, and as much as it breaks my heart to cover that paper, I'm going to pop that in the middle there. Then the little Whisper White panel basic white goes straight over the top. I'm going to stamp this with our sentiment, and again I'm going to use the thanks for everything that's in the stamp set. You could use any of them. Oh, yeah, could use any of them. They're so very happy for you would be nice for, say, a wedding or an engagement or something. But I'm going to use the thank you for everything now, which I've already got blocked up. So you want to put your sentiment on the bottom right-hand corner of the card, because we're going to bring in that little die cut on the left-hand side. So bring your sentiment in just in black. It would look pretty in the Highland Heather if you've got it, and stamp that. I mucked that up a little bit down there, but it's not too bad. Okay, so we stamped that one in there. Then you've got your little die cut here, and he's going to sit to the left-hand side of that. And I'm going to pop that on some dimensionals. So you should have some dimensionals with your pack. They're probably large dimensionals, so you may have to cut them down a bit. I did actually run out of small dimensionals during the week, and so when I like to give you everything you need, I had to go with the large ones instead. But as I say, you can quite easily chop them in half, and I probably will for down here. So I'll grab a big one. I might chop it just a slither along the edge and pop it down here just to support the stem, and then another little bit over here on this little leaf over here. Just a little bit big, just trim it off. There we are. I'll take that, get that off my finger, take the covers off those, and we'll pop that on. Lovely. Okay, so there's our little flower there, just nestled there to the left-hand side of our sentiment. And also in your kit, you've got some, or you should have, apologies if some people find they don't have the little pearl. I did find one on the floor of my craft room and thought, oh my goodness, I think that's dropped out of a pack. So if you find yourself with no pearl, please reach out and I will send you some, because I hate to think that my packs would go out incomplete, especially because you've paid for the whole thing. So let me know if you're missing that little pearl and I'll send you a couple so you can finish your cards the same way. Okay, so there's the front of that one. I think that's really sweet. It's just a nice little simple card. Really, really lovely. It just made a bit special by that panel that opens there. Now, I do need to bring that inside, and as I say, I've made that a little bit too big, so I'm going to have to trim it off if I just find my trimmer. So it should be 3 7/8. I've obviously made it 4 inches square, thinking I was working with a, oh no, that's right, that way. That's weird. Okay. It's definitely too long that way. Joys of card making. I have to trim it off a little bit, bring it back down just so it fits in, regardless of what it's actually measured at. It's too big. There we are, that's better. I think mine's not exactly square. I hope yours is, but I think mine's not exactly square. Oh dear. I made such a lot of these cards, these card kits. They all started to merge into one at the end, so apologies if yours needs a little bit of a trim down. Pop that over there. Okay, so hopefully trimming it down is easy enough. Hopefully you can't add it back, which is the problem. So I'll just glue that in. You could bring some sentiments or another little flower from the outside into there, but I'll just leave that blank since it's not a huge area, and so you can pop your personal message in there. Ooh, crooked. Straighten it up. Excess glue. There we are. Yeah. Cool, lovely. All right, that was a quicker one than the first one, 20 minutes. Okay, so there is card number 2 of our July card. I'm just searching for my original to bring it in. Oh, this is card number 2 of our July product class with the colour and contour. So you can see most of you will have this polka dot ribbon, which is lovely. I think I actually prefer that, but the gorgeous grape isn't bad as well. Okay, so there we are, card number 2. I'll have a bit of a clean up and I'll do the final card very shortly.